Hello, this is Gordon Fessick from antiwindowscatalog.com, and this is part 3 of safeguarding your Windows 10 Pro PC. We're going to take a look at the safety features built into Windows. And we're going to go into this blind because I haven't touched any of the previews. I wanted to see how much my Windows 8 techniques applied here. Because we're going to look at security settings that affect the whole PC, we'll log on as the maintenance admin account. I want the control panel. There we go. There we go. Windows Firewall. This prevents inbound connections and prevents outbound connections if you really want it to. Okay, what do we got? That's default here. Okay, some of the default apps. Here's something I gotta make clear here. Some folks are worried about applications making connections to the internet, and so they want to prevent outbound connections as well as inbound and so forth. I'm more focused on keeping the unwanted software off the PC. If the wanted software is on the PC, it's on there so that it can do its thing. I gotta make this clear. The idea is to keep unwanted software off the PC. If you've got unwanted software on the PC, then you've got more important problems than whether or not it's making internet connections. Okay, let's take a look at the advanced firewall settings. Okay, I just installed Skype. Yes, I've got an inbound connection open for that. And because I could use it while I'm roaming around, say I had a laptop, yeah, I want it to allow it for all profiles, private, public. WebKit, that's... what is that? Oh, it's part of QuickTime here. Okay, and these are some built-in apps. Looks like it's set only for private networks, so I'm not too worried. My network is already private. Yeah. That means I'm already sitting behind another firewall, like a NAT router or maybe a corporate firewall or something like that. So I'm not worried about these things opening connections while I'm inside my private network. If the profile said public or all, then I'd be a little worried. There may be some things I want to turn off for public network. Cast to device. I think this is for streaming stuff to other things like an Xbox, so you can play your movies from your PC on your game console up front. We can fiddle with these and say, oh, here we go. We can turn it off for public. Oh, okay. Well, that one we can just disable if we don't want it. Private, public, disable. Contact support. This could be useful if you're trying to get remote support. So we keep this on. Core networking. That's things like being able to ping your PC. You can turn these off if you don't want them, but they're generally required for basic networking. You turn these things off, then the IP stack in Windows has no idea how to deal with some of these control messages. So it may take longer for some connections to respond. Leave these on. These are not applications. This is part of the core IP stack. What is delivery optimization? I'll have to look that one up. Again, it's built into Windows. I'm not going to worry about it too much. File and printer sharing. If you do enable home group or you're otherwise a member of the domain, you're going to want it enabled for domain or private, not for public. Get off. Oh, that's the get office. That's this thing. probably don't need that accepting inbound connections. Link, we want to do inbound connections. I installed Link a little while ago because I use it, but this is to be able to receive notifications, to be able to do video conferencing. We want that enabled. Mail and calendar. I'm guessing this is for active sync for push notifications, so we'll leave it on. Edge. I don't know why it would accept inbound connections, but it's only set for private and domain anyway. Photos. Okay, why would the Photos app need to be available on the public network to accept connections? We can turn that off. At least for public. Solitaire connection. Again, domain private. Why? Domain private, domain private. Seems to be the default for a lot of the basic Windows 8 style apps that run on 10. Domain private, domain private. Fine. Fine, fine, fine. Network discovery, network discovery. I did enable network discovery so that other devices could find this PC on my private network. So this makes sense. This is for things like the streaming, for the Xbox, for a phone, or whatnot. OneNote. Okay, again, private. Proximity sharing. What the heck? That's a new one. Well, if we're paranoid, we can turn that off for public. This is a desktop PC, so it's not going to move from beyond its little firewall. But if this were a laptop, you'd want to do these things. I'm going through the motions here. Remote assistance. Handy for within a corporate network or be able to accept remote assistance from someone over... Wait a minute. I've never used remote assistance on here, actually. Let's keep going. Remote search. Why? Why is this thing accepting inbound connections on public? Why would it accept inbound connections at all? Disable. Windows Store. Why are you accepting inbound connections? VLC. This kind of makes sense, but it only makes sense to me on a private network. If, say, I were streaming something inside. Wi-Fi Direct Network Discovery. This is new. I'm assuming this is for discovering access points. It makes sense on a public network, so let's leave it. Wireless display, private, public. Oh, wireless TVs or wireless monitors you can project to. That kind of makes sense. Work or school account. Oh, configurations. Xbox. That must be this thing. No. Fine for inside. Now, let's save a copy of these. I know there's an option to export these. No, that's not it. Oh, here we go. Export policy. Let's save a copy of this handy somewhere. Okay. If something goes and fiddles with this, or if we make a drastic change and it doesn't work, we can come back here and restore it. Outbound rules. This is applications making connections out to servers. There's really no need to turn any of these off. Again, if you've got an application you want to run and it's supposed to make outbound connections, then it's supposed to do it. Get rid of it if you don't want to use it. Where's Windows Defender? There we go. Formerly known as Microsoft Security Essentials, this is basically the same thing you can get for free for Windows 7. Up to date. As long as you leave automatic updates enabled, you do not have to worry about updating virus definitions. It does it for you when they come out. Obviously no big issues. This is a fresh PC. Where's System Restore? System Protection. This is what it was called before. Looks like it's turned off. Let's turn that on. Let's turn that on. Set aside. 10% used to be the rule. That should be fine. I don't know why it's turned off by default. That's interesting. System Restore is handy if you make a drastic system change, like you install an application, a big application like Roxio Creator here, and you don't know what it's going to do. Well, you can take a snapshot of your PC before you install the application. I've done this before evaluating some apps that I did not recognize, especially things from Adobe Creative Suite. I did this. So I took a System Restore checkpoint, I installed the app, I evaluated it, then I restored it from my checkpoint. Let's just make a checkpoint right now. This was turned on by default in Windows XP Service Pack 2 and later. I don't know why it's turned off now. Maybe it was to save on processing time. Do go in here and turn it on. For your system drive at the very least. For your other drives, you can use File Restore to make backups. Okay, System Restore is configured. I wonder how often it makes checkpoints. Okay, so now System Restore is enabled. Okay, in the Windows 8 Part 3, I showed how to prevent other devices from starting this PC. It's a useful thing to do here in case a friend brings a USB device and it happens to be startable, and that way they can't go rummaging through your hard drive. Or if that device is plugged into the PC when it's turned off and it gets turned on and then all of a sudden it starts from it. I've seen this happen with people's phones, depending on the phone. If it looks like a boot device, it'll try to boot off it. Yeah, let's do something about that. We have to restart the computer and go into BIOS setup. This is a traditional PC that's like a... Where am I going? I just want to restart it. This is a traditional PC that has a basic input-output system, and you can go into its settings and change the startup order. On your PC, especially a new one, it may have very different instructions for changing the startup order. Review your PC manual for this. There we go. Okay, what am I doing with a 3.5-inch floppy in a virtual machine? Okay, boot order. Let's make the hard drive the only bootable device, and I only want to boot the built-in hard drive. I don't want to boot these other things. And then once we've changed the boot order, we can put a password on here so that no one can go in here and change it. This particular BIOS looks like a lot of generic PCs where you can set a supervisor password which gets you into BIOS setup, and then a user password for even just booting the machine. Just set the supervisor password and don't forget it! Write it down somewhere, put it in a cookie jar, put it at safe. Keep it away from your children! If you have children. Which actually brings up the next step in this. I'm going to try to use family safety on here. On Windows 7, Family Safety was a Windows Essentials component you had to install. Here, I think it's built into Windows 10. Let's take a look. I'm just going to add a local account. Oh, I absolutely have to make it a Microsoft account. Here, I'm going to pause this while I borrow someone, okay? I will be right back. Born on Canada Day. Let's make it that. Let's make him a pretty young kid. Yeah, sure. I'm going to have to zap this. Okay, so let's switch users for a second. This is new to me. I want to see how this works. With myself as the parent. Okay. Let's remove that. That was a testing one that I did way back. Okay. Family testing Gordon F. Okay. Maybe I should have created the account from the family safety page. Okay, here we go. Ta-da! Yeah, this is pretty. Maybe there's another one. Come on. Here we go. So now if I switch back, it should let me set up controls on that account. If I remember this from Windows 7. Okay, refresh. Yep, that would be my machine. Web browsing. Block inappropriate sites. Always allow these, always block these. It's just a test. So we can do that for this account. Okay, that's all correct, I think. Block inappropriate games and apps. Sure. I picked his birth date to be in 1999, so he'd be 16 years old. That should be fine. Screen time. We can set time limits. I'm not going to for this test. I think that's it. Let me switch. See what happens now when I log this person off and log him back on. Yep, device activity is now reported. Okay, well, let's log him off, kind of to reset it. Just to free up resources, I'll log myself off from here too. Looks like that took immediate effect once I accepted the invitation. But what are we waiting for? There we go. Close you. Log me off. Your device activity is reported to adults in your family. That's exactly what's supposed to happen. Okay. Oh no, I'm going to Google. Ah! Okay. Ask for permission. Good, that's working. All right. Okay, I can go to other places. I am not going to try any explicit sites because this is supposed to be a family-friendly video. But it looks like it's working. So let's see. Let's log off of here. And we're still a standard user account. So if this guy were to go to install something... I used Uvu as an example last time. Yeah, it needs to make changes, so it's going to prompt for admin access. That's the correct behavior. Good. That's what I'm looking for. All right. Well, that was fun. Thanks for your patience, everyone. Okay, so in this selection, we covered the built-in safeties in Windows 10 and Windows 10 Pro. We haven't touched on the Pro-specific features yet. That'll come in Part 4. We covered the Windows Firewall. I made some adjustments for my personal preference, but again, I want to stress that we want to keep unwanted software off of here. If you've got unwanted software on your machine, whether or not they make internet connections is the least of your worries. If you've got wanted software on there and it's supposed to make internet connections, don't panic. Alright, in an absolute worst case, you can turn off all connections inbound for, say, the public network. You can do that. We went over the built-in antivirus product, the Security Essentials port over now called Windows Defender. That runs and updates automatically as long as you have Windows Update enabled, which it is by default. We went over this particular PC's startup settings to make sure the hard drive was always the first to start. That prevented people from starting the computer from CDs or DVDs or USB devices or phones left accidentally plugged in. And we touched on family safety, which is now built into Windows. It took some effort to get family safety to work, but it does work out of the box. And it does do the blocking that parents would expect. I do have to stress one more point. Parents, please avoid giving your children the admin password for your PC. As much as they moan, as much as they complain, as much as they want to install stuff, don't do it. There's no substitute for good parenting. Anyway, I will catch you guys all next time for part 4.